Harley dealerships are packed, not with buyers, but with unsold bikes. Sales have slowed, and some models are just sitting, collecting dust. Here are 7 Harleys dealers can't move. The further we go on this list, the more you'll see why Harley is getting nervous. Number 1. Harley Davidson Softail Standard. This bike was supposed to bring back the basics. Harley wanted to remind people of the joy of riding without all the extras. The Softail Standard came with a big V-twin engine and a classic look, but not much else. No fancy screens, no windshields, no passenger seat. It was meant to be a blank canvas. Riders could either customize it or enjoy the raw, stripped-down feel. Underneath, it had a Milwaukee 8107 engine, which is a big 1,745cc V-twin. It made 87 horsepower and 109 pound-feet of torque. That's strong. It also had a 6-speed transmission and Harley's trusted Softail frame. The bike had good power, but it lacked comfort. On the highway, riders had to fight the wind. There was no passenger seat unless you paid extra, and longer rides weren't fun. The seat was small and hard, and the riding position hurt taller and shorter riders alike. Plus, in today's world, even cheap bikes from Japan or Europe come with tech like USB ports or cruise control. The Softail Standard had none of that. Riders felt it was stuck in the past. Then came the price. It started at $13,949. But to make it usable for longer trips or passengers, you had to buy extras. By the time you added a windshield, bags, and a seat for a friend, the cost jumped to $15,000 or more. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a good deal. The way it looked also split opinions. Some liked the simple, raw look. Others thought it was boring or too plain. People even confused it with more expensive Harley models until they noticed what was missing. Because of all this, the Softail Standard didn't sell well. Word got around fast. People walked into dealerships expecting a classic Harley and left feeling let down. Some dealers tried to sell it with add-on packages, but that didn't fix the deeper problems. To many riders, it felt like they were being asked to pay full price for half a motorcycle. Number 2. HarleyDavidson Street Rod. Harley tried something bold here. They wanted a bike that could appeal to younger riders and compete with sportier models from other brands. The Street Rod was supposed to be that bike. It had a more aggressive look and was built to handle better than Harley's usual cruisers. It used a 749cc liquid-cooled V-twin engine called the Revolution X. It made 68 horsepower and 74 pound-feet of torque. That's not bad. It also had better suspension, strong brakes, and rear shocks that helped it feel sharp in corners. On paper, it looked like a fun, sporty Harley under $10,000. But the riding position was rough, the foot pegs were too high, and the seat was narrow and hard. For taller riders, the bike felt way too small. For anyone on longer rides, it became uncomfortable fast. While it looked exciting in photos, in real life it just wasn't fun to ride. The design was confusing too. Harley tried to mix cruiser and sport bike styles. It had drag-style handlebars, a chopped tail, and bold tank lines. But it didn't work for most people. Old-school Harley fans thought it didn't feel authentic. New riders thought it looked outdated and not cool enough. And then there were better options for the same price. Bikes like the Yamaha MT-07, Honda CB650R, and Kawasaki Z650 were all faster, more comfortable, and had better features, and they often cost less. Some buyers also mentioned small quality problems, things like panels or paint issues. That made people worry even more. Number 3. HarleyDavidson Road Glide CVO. This bike was supposed to be Harley's best. The Road Glide CVO was built with top quality parts, the latest tech, and a flashy design. It was made to be the ultimate touring motorcycle. It had a massive Milwaukee 821 engine, 1983cc big. It made 115 horsepower and 139 pound-feet of torque. That's strong. But the bike was also heavy, nearly 950 pounds. So it needed to be super smooth, comfortable, and worth the big price tag. And that price tag? $51,999. That's more than some new cars. Yes, it had amazing features, an adjustable suspension, a fancy Rockford Fosgate sound system, a big color touchscreen, and lots of rider safety tech. But riders started asking, is it really worth it? That's where the trouble began. Yes, the CVO looked great. Yes, it sounded awesome. But compared to Harley's other touring bikes, like the Street Glide Special, it didn't offer that much more. Not enough to justify a $20,000 jump in price. Resale value was also a problem. These bikes lose value fast. Some drop by thousands of dollars in the first year. That's a hard hit, especially for older buyers spending retirement money. Many riders found it smarter to buy a cheaper touring bike and customize it for less money. Dealers noticed too. These high-end bikes weren't selling. They sat on showroom floors, month after month. They looked great, but nobody was buying them. The Road Glide CVO was meant to be the king of Harley's lineup, but in trying to be the most luxurious bike ever, it priced itself out of the market. Most riders just weren't willing or able to spend that much. It's a perfect example of a brand reaching too far and losing touch with what buyers really want. Number 4. Harley-Davidson Fat Bob 114. When the new Fat Bob first rolled out, it looked like something out of a biker movie. It had huge, tough-looking tires, dark black parts, and a mean, strong design. It promised serious power and attitude, like a wild ride that would turn heads everywhere it went. Harley-Davidson wanted it to feel modern and bold, while still keeping that Harley heart. But even though it looked cool, this bike didn't connect with everyone. Some people loved it, but many just didn't get it. Under the tank, it had the big Milwaukee 814 engine. That means 1,868 cc of raw power, making 94 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to snap your arms back if you twist the throttle hard. But in the world of cruisers, speed and power aren't everything. A lot of riders care just as much about how a bike feels, and that's where this one lost people. From the first ride, many Harley fans said the seating was uncomfortable. The way the foot pegs were pushed forward and the seat sat low made it hard to enjoy long rides. The handlebars also felt far away, so riders had to stretch to reach them, which made their backs and shoulders hurt. For a bike meant to feel powerful, the riding position just didn't work for a lot of people. It felt like it was designed more to look cool than to be comfortable. The look of the Fat Bob was also a big reason people either loved it or didn't. It had a horizontal LED headlight that looked like something from a sci-fi movie. The pipes were upswept and bold, and the tires were thick and chunky. Some people thought this was awesome, fresh and different from any other Harley. But many longtime fans said it looked too strange, and newer riders thought it wasn't modern enough compared to bikes from brands like Yamaha or Indian. When it came to everyday use, the Fat Bob also fell short. It wasn't great for commuting and definitely not made for long road trips. The big tires and wide frame made it heavy and hard to handle in tight spots. The suspension was okay, but not very smooth for longer rides. And it cost around $18,000, putting it up against other bikes that were more comfortable and easier to ride. Even the customizing, something Harley riders love, was harder with this bike. The special shape of the Fat Bob meant you couldn't easily swap out parts. Changing things like the pipes or the body panels often took more time, money, and effort than people expected. Number 5. HarleyDavidson Livewire. In 2019, Harley-Davidson made a huge move. It wasn't another big gas-powered touring bike. It wasn't a newer version of an old model. This was something totally different, an electric motorcycle. They called it the Livewire, and it was supposed to start a whole new chapter for Harley. It was their way of trying to change with the times and reach new kinds of riders. But even though the idea was exciting, it didn't go the way they hoped. At first glance, the Livewire looked amazing. It had a smooth, modern shape and looked fast even when it wasn't moving. Underneath that cool design was a strong electric motor called the Revelation. It made 105 horsepower and 86 pound-feet of torque right away, with no delay. That meant it could go from 0 to 60 mph in just 3 seconds, faster than most gas bikes. In the city, it could go up to 146 miles on one charge, and on the highway around 70 miles. It also had great suspension and smart safety features, like special braking systems for better control. On paper, it had everything a high-performance electric bike needed. But here's the problem. Harley's usual fans didn't want it, and the new riders it was aimed at couldn't afford it. When it came out, it cost $29,799. That was more than many of Harley's biggest, fanciest bikes. Young riders who were into tech and the environment loved the idea, but not the price. And older riders, who loved the sound and feel of a big V-twin engine, didn't want a quiet, smooth electric ride. The Livewire didn't feel like a Harley to them. There was no roar, no gears to shift, no rumble under your seat. For people who loved that classic Harley experience, this bike felt more like a computer than a motorcycle. Even though it was fast, it didn't have the soul they expected. Charging was another issue. In big cities, there were fast chargers that could charge the battery to 80% in about 40 minutes. But outside the cities, charging was slow and hard to find. That made it scary for riders who wanted to go on longer trips. And with only about 70 miles of highway range, it just wasn't practical for open road rides, which are a huge part of Harley culture. Harley tried to fix things. They dropped the price to around $22,000. They focused on city riders. They even turned Livewire into its own brand to separate it from Harley's classic image. But nothing really worked. People still weren't buying it. Dealerships were stuck with bikes that just sat there, unused. Number 6. HarleyDavidson Nightster. The HarleyDavidson Nightster was supposed to be a big step forward for the brand. It was meant to be a modern version of the famous Sportster, a bike built to bring in younger riders and show that Harley could still keep up with today's motorcycle world. It was also supposed to keep the Sportster legacy alive and exciting. But when it finally showed up in stores, it didn't wow anyone. It didn't sell well, and it didn't grab attention online either. Instead of becoming the next big thing, it became a bike most people glanced at once and then walked right past. Let's talk about the engine. That's the heart of every Harley. The Nightster had a new, liquid-cooled engine called the Revolution Max 975T. It was 975cc and made 90 horsepower with 70 pound-feet of torque. On paper, that sounds like great performance, better than the old Sportsters. But many Harley fans didn't like how it felt. The new engine was too quiet, too smooth, and didn't shake or roar, like the older V-twin engines. It worked well, but it didn't feel like a real Harley to them. It didn't have that deep rumble or raw, gritty personality riders love. The price started at $13,499, which was supposed to make it a good choice for someone new to Harley. But to hit that price, the company had to cut corners. Some riders noticed cheap plastic parts, messy-looking wires, and paint or finish that didn't feel as strong or solid as older Harleys. Even the way it looked wasn't for everyone. The Nightster had a dark, stripped-down style, but some people thought it looked too plain or too much like a basic cruiser. It just didn't have the same powerful look or cool attitude of bikes like the Iron or 48. Comfort was another issue. With its mid-mounted foot pegs and low handlebars, it felt cramped, especially for taller riders. Short rides were okay, but longer trips could make your legs and back ache. The suspension was firm, which worked well on smooth roads, but it felt rough on bumpy streets. Even though it was lighter than big Harleys, it didn't handle as easily as people hoped. It wasn't comfy enough for long-distance cruising, and it wasn't sharp or fast enough to be called a sport bike. It landed somewhere in the middle, and not in a good way. And when you looked around at the other bikes in the same price range, the competition was tough. Bikes like the Yamaha MT-07 and Honda Rebel 1100 gave smoother rides, more tech, and better handling for about the same price. Even used Harley models like the Iron 1200 or the older 48 had more of that classic Harley feel, sound, and style. Plus, they were easier to customize. Number 7. HarleyDavidson Street 500 and Street 750. For most of its history, Harley-Davidson has been known for big, powerful bikes with loud engines and strong, heavy frames. Their bikes are built to be bold and proud, with a sound and feel you can't forget. So when Harley tried to go small, light, and cheap with the street bikes, it seemed like a smart move. These bikes were meant to bring in new riders, younger people, and folks who had never owned a Harley before. But instead of helping the brand grow, these bikes became some of the most ignored and disliked models Harley has made in recent years. Let's look at the basics. The Street 500 had a small 494cc liquid-cooled engine with 34 horsepower and 29 pound-feet of torque. The Street 750 used the same type of engine but was a little bigger, 749cc with 47 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. That's not terrible for beginner bikes, but it wasn't exciting either. And that was the problem. These bikes didn't feel powerful or fun. Even worse, they didn't feel like Harleys. Most people buy a Harley for the deep V-twin sound, the strong pull of the engine, and the heavy, tough look. The street models didn't have any of that. Riders said the engine was too quiet and soft. The parts looked and felt cheap, lots of plastic, not much chrome or metal. And when you rode it, the bike didn't rumble or shake like a Harley should. It felt like a basic import bike, not an American icon. These bikes were supposed to be great for beginners. They were small, low to the ground, and easy to handle in cities. That made them great for Harley's own riding school, where new riders learned how to use a motorcycle. But once people left the parking lot and hit real roads, the bikes didn't impress. The power felt weak, the quality didn't match the brand, and the ride wasn't very exciting. The price seemed fair, about $7,700 for the Street 500 and $8,500 for the Street 750. But when buyers took a closer look, they often walked away. For that kind of money, they could get better bikes like the Honda Rebel or Yamaha Bolt. Those bikes looked better, performed better, and had stronger builds. All for the same or even less money. To make things worse, Harley dealerships didn't push the street models very hard. Salespeople focused more on the big touring bikes that brought in more money. So the Street were often pushed to the back of the showroom. There weren't many parts or accessories for them either, and longtime Harley fans weren't interested in customizing them. That left new riders with bikes that felt forgotten by everyone, even the company that made them. Eventually, Harley gave up. The bikes didn't sell well, no matter how hard they tried. The company quietly stopped offering them in most places. Today, you can still find them sitting in showrooms or being sold used, but most people don't even notice them. They were supposed to be the future of Harley-Davidson. Instead, they became a lesson in what happens when a brand forgets what made it special in the first place. Which one of these Harleys do you think most deserved to succeed? Or which one were you most surprised to see struggle? Is there a model here you secretly wanted? Or perhaps one you think dealers should just give away at this point? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if you appreciate these deep dives into the bikes that didn't quite make it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more honest motorcycle stories. Ride safe, and we'll see you on the next one.